Hey guys, Cameron here. Welcome to a video that hopefully I can make it through without tears and sadness and pain for myself. I'm technically recording this on the 21st. I when I first heard the news, I didn't know how to fully put my thoughts into words, so I wanted to wait until I had a full cognitive thought process and multiple thoughts on the whole situation. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, recently, actually in the Who's Next video from yesterday, I talked about Chester Bennington's suicide. If you do not know who Chester Bennington is, he is, was the frontman and one of the lead vocalists for the band Linkin Park, which growing up I listened to them every single day. I fell in love with them when I was really young. They were a huge inspiration to me. At one point I thought about being a singer, and it was because of Linkin Park. Their songs helped get me through a lot of difficult times, and yeah, they were a band that to me was an inspiration for a lot of things, and I always loved them. And I woke up this morning, and after about 2 or 3 hours of being awake, my girlfriend showed me a picture saying that he had hung himself, and I was just, in my mind, the first things I was thinking were, please let this be a hoax. Please tell me that one of my idols is not actually dead. And about 2, 3, 4 hours later, it was confirmed by Mike, the other frontman, the other vocalist, that Chester had in fact hung himself. It's heartbreaking to hear, because, and then you've got, obviously, it's heartbreaking to hear because, that's somebody who looks at Chester as family and has been with him since '96. That's 20 years of friendship and being on the road together and going to shows and concerts and writing music together and recording music videos and all that stuff. That's 20 years of that, and getting to know him and being with him and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And it sucks because I feel like Mike, Chester's family, the rest of the members of Linkin Park are all having to deal with the fact that there's assholes on the internet right now calling Chester a coward because, oh, you had 6 kids, you coward, and making memes about his death and stuff like that. And it's sickening. I hate that this is how the world is nowadays. I do. Because there's people that can take a situation like somebody's death and make fun of it and call the person a coward for suicide. And it's ugly to see that. As a race, it's ugly to see that. As a person, it is ugly to see people saying that sort of things. He was also, Chester was very close with Chris Cornell, lead singer of Soundgarden, if you guys don't know, who committed suicide a few months ago. It was his birthday yesterday. He would have been 53. And a lot of people are thinking that he did actually kill himself because he missed his friend, and I can understand that. I mean, I've missed friends before too like that, and it's sometimes a hard thing, I've talked multiple times about my grandfather's passing and how I get slightly depressed around that time of year all the time when it comes to his birthday and the year and the days he passed and all that. But first things first, I want to say I do not in any way, shape, or form think that Chester was a coward. I think the people who may have had a hand in driving him to suicide to think that was the only option are cowards. I think the people saying that, oh, he's a coward because he left 6 kids behind, don't realize what the mind of someone who has depression is like. In his mind, he could have been thinking that that was the best option for his kids, that he would be doing them a favor. And it's further worsened by the fact that some assholes hacked his wife's Twitter account. And I haven't seen all of the tweets that have been going out since then, but one of them I saw was I told him to do it. I told him no one would care, and I think that's sickening. That's horrible. It's like this family is grieving, and you guys are doing these sorts of things, and it is terrible to see. Secondly, I think that for anyone to have to be driven to suicide is terrible. I've dealt with it a lot in my past, not just depression, but people who I know who have committed suicide and suicidal tendencies and thoughts myself, and it's heartbreaking to hear this when it comes to celebrities who have died and stuff, and because you know how it's gonna go, you do. You always know what it's gonna be like as soon as it's done. Everyone's gonna start joking about it and saying this or that and all that, and it's been ruined by the internet. I think people dying has gotten a lot worse since the internet. News breaks and people start making fun of it, and it's horrible. Thirdly, I think that people who are next week, actually, Linkin Park was supposed to start their tour, and I feel like a lot of people are gonna have a lot of I feel like people are gonna be pissed off about this because they're not gonna be going on tour, obviously. But the thing people aren't gonna realize is that that's making them look selfish, because they're like, oh, I don't fucking care if your friend and bandmate just died. I want you guys, I paid for those tickets. You guys are going to come out and fucking go on your tour whether you like it or not. And I've seen people react like that to other people who have died when they were supposed to start a tour. And it's like, seriously? You guys can't give them some space and let them breathe because they just lost a friend and a band, not just a bandmate, but a friend, someone they've been touring with and writing with, like I said, for 20 years. Well, 21 technically, but still. You know what I mean? And that's just horrible to see that kind of reaction from people. It's like, calm down, give them some space. And it's always the same thing, you know. You see a band that loses a member from death take a break before they go on their tour, and they always say, look, we will be going the same places, just on different dates. Your tickets will still be fine and all that. And that's always how it is. And I don't understand why people react so hostile towards the band. I really feel for Chester's friends and family in this moment. I've felt the same pain they're feeling now. I know what they're going through. I've lost people to suicide, and I've been luckily pulled from the brink of it myself a few times, and it's never easy, especially when you lose them to this and you know that it could have been stopped if you would have seen the signs, but sadly not a lot of people do. And then there's always the people, like I said earlier, people calling him a coward and stuff and trying to butt in and put their 2 cents in. It's like, have you ever suffered through depression and suicidal tendencies and thoughts? No, you probably haven't. So quit being an asshole and realize that for a lot of people, this seems like the only option. And for Chester, that's probably the way it looked, was that his only option was suicide. It was what would make, in his mind at least, what would help the world, I guess, is the only way I can think of it. There was another thought I wanted to talk about, and I honestly completely forgot. Right, okay, I remember. Because I wanted to kind of grieve a little bit, I was listening to some Linkin Park, and in the song Heavy, it really does sound like he's saying goodbye. And I feel like he had had a plan to do this, and that's the sad thing, is you never realize that sort of thing. You know, you can miss simple signs, and it's so terrible to see those sorts of things, just to you know, to barely miss that, to barely miss something along those lines. And I feel like Heavy may have been his final, like, curtain call. You know, he's like, I'm saying goodbye to you guys. I love you all, and you know, it's the way it seemed to me. And he suffered through alcohol and drug addiction throughout probably his entire musical career, and it's hard to hear that, because it's like, that's something that's difficult to come back from, even for the strongest of people. And so I feel like a lot of that really played into this too. And it's just, it reminds me a lot of what happened with David Bowie when he passed. He, you know, his final songs, Lazarus and Black Star, I think, they were so heart-wrenching and gut-wrenchingly sad and painful that you're like, he knew he was going. He knew he didn't have much time left, but he wanted to say goodbye. And I almost feel like that's what Chester did too. Chester wanted to say goodbye to his fans in some way, shape, or form. He wanted to say goodbye, and I think Heavy may have been that way. You know? I feel like he... Oh, man. This is what happens, though. Like, straight up, this is what happens when I try to make a video like this, guys. I get so sad. I feel like he definitely was planning this, and he wanted to... You know, I think it goes back months, because that's how it is with a lot of people. It's not just, oh, I'm randomly going to up and kill myself one day. No, they will think about it for a long, long time, especially if they have a family. They will think about it and try to figure out if that's what they really want to do. And I think that's another thing people don't really realize about suicide. They think it's just a quick thought. It's like, no, am I sure about this? Do I actually want to do this? Do I want to go through with this? You know, and then they'll write suicide notes and then throw them away and all this stuff, because they're scared that they don't really want to die. And it's so sad to see those sorts of things and see what people can say about someone who's literally passed 5 hours before they write their shitty comment on the internet saying he's a coward. I just want to say that to his family, to his friends, to all the members of Linkin Park, to everyone who is a member of the Linkin Park fandom and loves Linkin Park in general, I'm grieving with you guys. I know how difficult this is for all of us, but sticking together is the good option. I want to say rest in peace to Chester, because he was a big part of my childhood, and at one point I thought about a career in music, and it was because of him. It was because of Linkin Park, and it was what I really, at one point, was what I wanted to do, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't think of it in the way I wanted to. So that's my thoughts on everything that has happened in the past day regarding Chester Bennington, Linkin Park, and his suicide. And it is so sad to hear the news of it in general. But I will say this before we go. First off, if you do know someone who could be going through that sort of thing, who could be contemplating suicide, who has depression, or could be having suicidal thoughts, could be hurting themselves or anything like that, please do not hesitate to reach out to them and talk to them. Don't hesitate to tell them to get help or anything like that, because you don't want to be too late to save somebody. Because I feel like if somebody would have seen the signs for anybody who has committed suicide, then they would realize that, hey, this is, they would have saved them and talked to them and said, hey, look, you're not alone in this. You've got us. And that's how it is. Please reach out to anybody who you think could be going through that sort of thing. Secondly, if you hear about somebody committing suicide, do not call them a coward, because you have to look at it from their eyes. You have to think about it as somebody who has depression, who's been thinking about that sort of thing for a long time, that may be the only option they see for themselves. And sadly, with the way depression is, that's the way that it ends up a lot. That they see death as the only option, and they will commit suicide, even though it's going to pain their loved ones and it's going to pain a lot of people. That's the way they're going to look at it, is that's my option and that's it. Thirdly, don't be an asshole. Don't go on the internet spouting hate about Chester or Linkin Park or anything. This is not the time to do that. If you don't like them, cool. Don't fucking say anything. Move on. Do a hashtag R.I.P or something. Just don't be a dick and fucking say he's a coward or say good riddance or anything like that, because it's not something that you should do, especially when you know that people are grieving over his death. Let people have peace before you decide to start being a dick. And going off of that, point 4, don't be a dick. Please do not do death hoaxes. If you guys do not know what a death hoax is, it is pretty much people going on the internet saying that a celebrity has died, worrying fans, family, friends, whatever. A few years ago, the year before Paul Walker died in a car crash, somebody had said that, oh, Paul Walker dead in a car crash, and it's like, wow, way to do a death hoax. Like, I remember the death hoax, and when it came back out saying, oh, he died in a car crash, I was like, oh, it's definitely a hoax, right? Found out that it wasn't. Like, when I found out about Chester, like I said, I thought it was a hoax, because that happens all the time. So do not go around spreading death hoaxes or anything like that, because that's not cool. Saying somebody died just honestly really, really screws with people's heads, and it makes it harder to believe when somebody actually does die. So that's it. That's my full analysis on the situation, my full thoughts, I guess, whatever you want to call them. I'm honestly going to miss him. I want Linkin Park to survive without him, I want them to still be a band, but it's difficult when you lose a member. It's going to be difficult. And they need to find somebody to do the vocals too. Is the bigger issue. So hopefully they'll get through this themselves, and hopefully throughout the next coming months, people who are fans of Linkin Park and are friends with Chester or are in the band or family related to him, whatever, will slowly begin to move on and get away from the grieving process so they can be happy again and remember him for who he is. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Please, if anyone's having trouble, you can even comment down below and I'll talk to you, because I've been in the issues or in the place you're probably in with depression and stuff. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about. Tell me your favorite Linkin Park song down in the comments. I don't want there to be hate or anything like that. Tell me what your favorite Linkin Park song is. If it's none of them, don't say none of them because they suck or anything like that. Just move on. Don't comment, or comment talking about whatever, something. Just don't be a dick about the songs, okay? If you have a favorite Linkin Park song, put it in the comments below. Mine, honestly, is just all of them. I love Linkin Park in general. Their songs are all awesome. Stay golden, guys. Peace.